just record. So this webinar will be recorded. So my name is Adora and I'm the CSM on the Priority Services team. And I'm so glad to see everyone here today and appreciate the time that it's taken everyone to jump on. Today's topic will be about the latest feature option previews that are available in Canvas. We know sometimes it's hard to keep up with all the cool features that get released, so hoping to showcase them in today's webinar. Paul, do you mind just skipping through to the next couple of slides? Perfect, thank you. So we've got, so on the slide, you can basically see that it says feature previews versus feature options. And I know many of you may be wondering what the difference between these two are. So essentially, when releasing larger features, we at Instructure typically allow the institutions to complete, basically have complete flexibility in how and when they enable this new functionality, essentially according to their preferred time frame via what we call a feature option. We know that not all institutions have the same needs, key dates, or how they do certain internal processes. And this allows you the flexibility to first test and pilot new functionality with, you may have a smaller cohort that you want to roll this out to. Some feature options are identified as feature previews on our public roadmap and within the release information. So these features provide early access to those institutions who want to actively participate in the development process alongside our product teams who essentially build these in real time. They really incorporate your user feedback and provide updates as often as, every 2 weeks. These are not beta features, but rather new opt-in features that are available in the production environment. And due to the ongoing development of these tools, they are subject to change, and we encourage all customers to provide feedback and help shape additional improvements before they're enabled for any product users. So I hope that's given a little bit of an insight into the real differences between feature previews and feature options. Online with me today, we have Paul Miller, who is our Senior CSM on the Priority Services team, who I know many of you have had the pleasure of working with. And then we've also got Rio Sakai monitoring the chat and Q&A section. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to pop them in there. And last but certainly not least, our wonderful APAC product manager, Ruth Thornton, is also here with us today. And she will essentially just be here to explain the why behind developing the first 3 feature previews, feature options that we'll be going through. So I'll just pass it over to Ruth and she'll give a little introduction and get things going.
Alrighty, thanks Adora, and hey everybody, welcome. It's great to be here. As Adora said, my name is Ruth Thornton and I am a product manager here at Instructure, but particularly my role is as a global product manager for our region here in APAC. And so for those of you who haven't met me or haven't interacted with me in this role, the function of my role is really to listen and understand and be the advocate and conduit for all the different requirements and needs that we have across education and the sectors that we serve here in APAC. And be that conduit up to our broader product organization so that we are informing and creating a product and a platform that is truly global and not specific to any one regional need. So when we talk about feature previews, just actually back on the previous slide, if that's okay, there are a number of different opportunities in terms of who can get involved, and the feature preview user groups are the way to sort of do that. So that is the method for how you can interact with these. These are available via the community. There's various links that you can see on here and how you can access those. So there are a couple that are available at the moment, and a few of those we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to be covering off on the why behind course pacing, assignment enhancements, and discussion redesign. And the team will also be talking a little bit more about how you can turn these on and leverage them within your instance, and why you should get involved, the types of use cases and the value that these different functionalities can bring. So please do dive into the community and read up more on these. These are your dedicated spaces to provide that feedback and get involved in how you shape where our product goes. We'd love to hear from you. In terms of feature previews and how these are managed, there are obviously some indications of this within your instance. So at the root account level, you'll be able to see the status of any given feature that is a feature preview, notified as such with the feature preview label or role pill that you can see there. And you can see also the state that corresponds to that will showcase to you what the default of that feature preview is, but also provide flexibility to go ahead and change that between on being enabled, off being disabled, and locked, where you're actually not allowing for areas of your instance hierarchy beneath the root account to make adjustments to that. So if it is enabled and unlocked, then you would, for example, be able to turn that off at a lower sub account. If it is enabled and locked, then that is something you are determining will be on and used for the whole account. So there is some flexibility there in how you can choose to release these. And this is really powerful when we're thinking about piloting, particularly for feature previews. This might be something that you're not sure about how you might use it at your institution. So you may want to turn it on in a particular sub-account or in even a particular course, even more granularly than that, so that you can have a group or a cohort come in and start testing this before you choose to roll it out to the wider community at your institution. So that's why we've got that flexibility within the platform, and you can go ahead and do that from the feature options area in your instance. Alrighty, let's kick into our first area here, which is course pacing. And as Adora said, I really just wanted to come in and provide a little bit of context around the why for course pacing, because this is such a fantastic feature. And it was essentially introduced to provide greater flexibility for how learning can be assigned to users within a Canvas course. And we recognize the administrative challenge that did exist for teachers and people who were managing the course creation and structure processes, who required a more personalized approach, or there were alternative commencement dates for users based on different intake models. And we really wanted to make their lives easier by introducing a feature to manage some of that admin for them. And so course pacing provides this functionality to effectively template that learning journey by enabling these staff or admin users to pre-structure or pre-populate that learning pathway through a course relative to the start date of a student's enrollment. So for APAC specifically, here in our region, we hear this requirement particularly from vocational education customers where rolling enrollments is really significant, and that structure does differ quite significantly from a traditional semester or term-based structure that's leveraged by other sectors. So we know that this is really powerful for our vet customers, and hopefully there's a few of you on the call here today. But we have also seen great applicability of this tooling in higher education and K-12, where there are use cases which exist. For example, learners that might need to catch up if they've swapped subjects and they're a couple of weeks behind, they swap from chemistry to biology or something like that, and they need to have an accelerated first few weeks in the program compared to the rest of the cohort. And we really think that this is a powerful tool to limit the disruption that can be caused when sometimes those last minute swaps or timetabling changes happen, and needing to do that in a just-in-time capacity. You can actually leverage this tool to pre-plan or pre-structure that for you. So that's a little bit about the why, but I'll hand over to Adora to talk a little bit more about the specifics.
Thanks, Ruth. Okay, so essentially, as Ruth mentioned, course pacing is really great for those institutions that have the rolling enrollments. The default status, as you can see from the actual screenshot itself, it is disabled and unlocked, and your admins have the ability to actually enable it at the root account. And then so once this is enabled at that root account setting, your teachers are also able to determine to turn it on at that course level. So once that's actually turned on at the course level, you'll notice when you actually go into the module of an actual course, as highlighted by the actual screenshot, that there will be a little bit of a course, a button at the top that shows you the course pacing option. Paul, if we can just go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so I know a lot of this was covered off by what Ruth was saying, but essentially that courses that have that rolling enrollments. I know that Paul also just mentioned in the chat as well that it's also great for staff PD. So you can structure your courses with the course pacing through that way. And, online courses, of course, as well. Next slide. And just some things to know about course pacing. So you do have the option to actually skip weekends as well when you're setting up the pace of the actual course. It doesn't actually utilize blueprints or templates at the moment. once course pacing has been enabled, you will see that anywhere where you navigate through the actual course, this message will actually be displayed, that it shows that this is a course pacing, that course pacing is being used. Course pacing works on the actual student app at the moment, but it is not managed by the teacher app. So just some little points to consider before you enable it. So this slide here, you'll notice after each feature option, feature preview that we actually go through, the last slide for that topic will actually have some links in here. Obviously, we're putting this up on our community page as well. So you can download it, have a look at it, access the links. So the user groups that Ruth referred to earlier on at the beginning, it's a link to the actual user group for, course pacing. You'll also be able to see the feature overview, great little presentation video, as well as some of the frequently asked questions as well. Next topic, please, Paul. There we go. Over to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Adora. Alrighty, discussion redesign. It's actually discussion and announcements, as you can see on there. I'll definitely be clear on that. It's not just the discussion tool. It does also include announcements and the redesign of the interface for that tool as well. But essentially, the need for this came out from again, feedback from our customers around the need for greater diversity in the feature set of our discussion tool, as well as easier administration in this area of Canvas and how people are actually going about managing discussions in a Canvas course. So we have redesigned our discussion space in order to improve the usability and the feature set that the tool does offer, both from a creation and a management perspective for teachers, but also for how all users interact with discussions day to day and what that actually looks like from a discussion, a thread, and that sort of perspective. So there is an evolved user interface that allows for quoting, tagging, at mentioning, capability to flag or report responses that are inappropriate so that teachers can intervene with those sorts of things if required. But there's also functionality like anonymity to provide, I guess, a more inclusive environment for people to feel like they can contribute and sort of reduce that barrier where sometimes they feel like maybe they're asking a silly question or they're a bit nervous about what other people might think. So maybe they just wouldn't say anything. This would hopefully reduce that barrier and help them feel confident to contribute. And there's also just some simple user interface updates to do with the sorting as well as role pills. So it's really clear to see which types of users, when you're not using anonymity, which types of users are actually contributing to the discussion, particularly in large courses where there's often a lot of volume of responses. It can be hard for students to understand, well, where's the teacher and are they the one responding to my question or to my need? So really calling that out in a more obvious way. So that's a little bit of the why behind discussion. I'll go ahead and hand over to Paul.
Hey everyone, I finally get to talk. How good is that? It's a really nice update to the discussions format and the layout. It's really modernizing how it looks, and so it's enabled in the exact same way as you would enable any feature option, and you can enable it at an account level and leave it unlocked so that so that teachers can choose where they want that available to them. In my opinion, I don't know why you wouldn't change to the new one, because it's really fantastic. But as Ruth mentioned, there's a bunch of extra, more modern functionality that's just not available in the classic discussions. So the app mentions and quote replies, the anonymity and reply reporting in particular, I know teachers are really excited about that one, so that we can control those discussions, particularly when we have some excited students who get a little bit out of hand sometimes. Yeah, these are it's a wall of text. So I'm not going to go through everything in that list there, but we've got all this parity with the existing discussions there. And it is supported on Canvas Mobile for iOS and Android in those versions onwards, 6.1 and 6.13. So I think they might be the latest ones. But always keep your apps up to date. That's just a nice reminder. And well, I went too far. And these are the links that we have where you can participate in the discussion announcements redesign user group, and also the feature preview, documentation, and other resources there to assist you with that in your journey with switching over, which I know everyone's going to do when they hop off this call today. Back over to you, Ruth.
Alrighty. And the last one from me that I'm going to cover off on a little bit of here is around the assignment enhancement interface for students and a little bit of the why behind this. So essentially, it is an update to the classic assignment details page that has really been brought in to improve that assignment interface and the submission workflow for students. So not just modernizing that experience, but it is also about the workflow. And that really has driven our decision in prioritizing this piece of work. And so in listening to feedback from customers, we definitely heard that the separate pathway for submitting tasks, accessing marks, and I didn't know that I was going to be rhyming so much today, and also receiving feedback between the assignment page and the marks page was confusing to students. And so we definitely believe that at the crux of our design, that learners really should be able to always see what is expected of them at any given time and easily identify which part of the assignment workflow they're up to, whether that's doing their first submission and just reviewing what's required of them and the submission types that are available, or reviewing their first piece of feedback, seeing their rubric and how they've gone and doing a reattempt, or whether they're just waiting for feedback from the teacher to have that indicated to them within the system and not need to sort of come back and check constantly if something's changed and there's new feedback to see. Being able to see all of that within the one interface, I think, is really powerful. And so we definitely saw another challenge, which was around the workflow for students who were undertaking multiple attempts of the same task. And I know, again, this is particularly prominent in the vocational space. We've heard about this a lot, but definitely applicable across the board, where reviewing marks and their rubric and their feedback for each of their attempts wasn't actually possible within classic assignments. So assignment enhancements was introduced to address those challenges via that improved submission workflow that I mentioned, but also to include a progress tracker for each assignment, clear submission options that are available for any given assignment, and improve that access to rubrics and feedback, as well as what it looks like to across their attempts. So they just go to the one place in their assignment area and they can see what's happened across every iteration or every attempt of that one assignment in the one space. We've also made sure, it might sound small, but we've also made sure that the action buttons, so things like submit and try again, that those things are always available and that they're found in the same location across all assignments, so that navigation and end user experience and ease of use that we really pride ourselves on, that really has been at the forefront of our design here.
That's one of my favorite parts of this, is just that it's all on that one screen for students now. It's so easy for them. It's just such a massive improvement to the student experience.
And to be able to toggle between those different submissions and go, oh, this was attempt 1, here was my feedback, here's my submission for attempt 2, here's my feedback, or to be able to sort of see that and just, with the click of a button to move between them, I think that is really powerful. Sorry, Adora, you're on
was on mute. Mute. No, agreed. And thank you so much for your time, Ruth. We really do appreciate you jumping on and providing your insights. So as you can see on the next slide, it's just a little bit of an imagery and a visualization into what was just discussed by Ruth and Paul. So you'll see that progress bar at the top. You'll see all the submissions types. So it's a really nice snapshot for your students in order to, gain that information straight away, so they're not having to go to different places and get those different information. So how it's enabled, again, similar to previous ones, enable it at the root account, or you can enable it at the course setting as well. And just a little reminder as well, if you do have any questions along the way, please do use that Q&A functionality. I think Ria's just popped it in as well into the chat. So we want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to pop them into the Q&A. Next slide, please, Paul. So essentially, why would you enable it? Like Paul said, why wouldn't you enable it? It's a great insight into viewing rubrics and also locating your teacher feedbacks as well. So it's a really nice snapshot of it. And the next one, please, Paul. So what you should know, so when enabled, all the existing assignments and the active courses convert to this view. So everything will change with existing assignments as well. Peer reviews and the originality report is not currently supported, but we hopefully it will be something that is coming soon. And the speed grader displays comments based on the actual submission attempt. And a really, really great thing as well, the Microsoft Immersive Reader is also supported as well. So that's really good for accessibility. It's also supported on the Canvas mobile app, so iOS 6.6 and Android 6.6.
Speaking of Microsoft Immersive Reader, that's not one of the ones that we've got in our webinar today, but that's worth checking out as well. So that's integrated in lots of different areas of Canvas now. It's more than just pages. So if you do use, even if you don't use Microsoft products, it is a great accessibility tool to help with your students. So worth checking that out at the same time.
And again, we've got the user group link there. And you've also got the overview as well as the FAQs if you want to just jump in there and have a read of these great articles in the community.
Okay, so comment library. Now, this one was born out of, when we went into the pandemic, we wanted a nice, easy tool for teachers to be able to reuse comments when they're using, typing the same thing over and over again. And instead of having to put that in, say, a Word document separate outside of Canvas, you can actually add your own comments into a comment library within Canvas. So this is all based inside of SpeedGrader. This is where you actually use it, but they're tied to the user. So if you do it in one course, those comments will be available to you in another Canvas course. So that's nice and easy for you to reuse them. Now, the intent of this particular feature is not to be a full-blown, massive commenting whiz-bang tool. It is just something nice and simple and quick and easy for teachers to be able to use so that they can have quick access to their own comments that they use frequently. Now, and that's basically what I've just said here. You can see some examples there in the screenshots of what that looks like inside of SpeedGrader. It's currently not supported on the assignment submission details page, but it is accessible right there from SpeedGrader when you are marking, which is where you'll want to use it. And you can learn some more at those following links on the slide deck there. And we will actually have, as we said earlier, a copy of this slide deck posted to our community page with the recording once that's available as well. Back to you, Adora. Oh, looks like we might have a couple of questions. Yes, you can enable them before going live. Rio's answered that. You can do it in beta. That's not a problem. In fact, that's actually something important for us to clarify, actually. If you see something that says feature preview, that's not a beta product. It's in production. It is a fully supported production grade feature. What it actually means is that our product team is still focusing on that particular part of the product. And so they still gaining feedback for future development and active development of that product. So you can actually have some influence whilst they're actively looking, whilst the product team is actively looking at that product. So don't think of feature previews as something that you can only turn on in beta. They are production ready. It's just that the product team is currently actively working on improving those and adding new features to it and things like that. So getting that feedback directly whilst it's in feature preview mode for that type feedback loop, which is really helpful.
Cool. So I'll go into enhanced gradebook filters, Paul. I think Rio's answering the questions in the Q&A. So enhanced gradebook filters. If you could go to the next slide, please, Paul. Awesome. I love this little feature preview within Canvas. I think it's great and makes the life of teachers a lot easier. So essentially, it allows the teachers the ability to set those detailed filters within their gradebook. So once applied, the user can actually save the filter view for future use, unless they actually, remove that filter. It will always stay there whenever they actually access the actual gradebook. You can enable it at the account level, or again, allow teachers to enable it within their course settings as well. And some of the condition types that you can actually use, we've got it highlighted here on the side. So, it really does provide that granularity when teachers are using the actual gradebook itself. Next slide, please, Paul. Again, so why would you enable it? It does provide that granularity and flexibility when filtering the gradebook, especially if you have a large cohort of students. So it just really does improve the user experience for the teachers when it comes to marking, a lot of those assignments. If you have a lot of sections as well, you can filter it through the sections, and it's just a bit more efficient in viewing the actual gradebook itself. Next slide. Just some things to know before you do enable it. So you'll actually see the before and after screenshots that we've got here. You'll notice that the view and the actions tabs, if you do enable the enhanced gradebook filter, they will move to a different place. So essentially they'll be under the settings tog as well as the sync tog. So they haven't completely disappeared or anything. They've just been rearranged and moved elsewhere. And it does not also appear in the teacher app either. Perfect. And again, as usual, there's some links that you can actually access: the user group, the overview video, and of course the FAQ section.
All right, improved outcomes management. Very appropriate that I talk about this, given I gave an outcomes webinar not long ago. One update, which you'll see if you go to the recording of that webinar in the community, I did post an update in the comments there that I mentioned in that webinar that the improved outcomes management was tied to the account level outcomes feature that we talked about in that webinar. It is no longer tied to that, so you can turn this on independently of that. So there's no reason not to turn it on now, because it looks fantastic. This is the old view of outcomes, and it was not great. This is the new view. The old view was not great because it was a side-scrolling thing, and it was really difficult to kind of work your way through and see where you're at. Whereas this is more of a tree structure that you can actually visualize, and it's just looks so much better than the previous version of when you manage outcomes. Now, at the moment, you do need to reach out. Actually, no. Rio, can you confirm this? I think in the last release, actually, clients can actually turn this on for themselves now. They don't need to reach out to the CSM. So this is pretty fresh. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can do that on your own, but we'll confirm that and put that in the chat there for you. But it's basically, because this is going to change the way it looks. If you are using outcomes already, then make sure you do communicate this to your teachers, because it'll be a bit of a change and they'll go, oh, what's going on? So just give them a bit of a heads up. But in my opinion, they're probably going to love the change anyway. So definitely check it out. And if you're happy with that, then turn it on for sure. And there's the link there to the resources. Pandora.
Oh, thank you, Paul. New course and user analytics. Next slide, please. So yeah, essentially it provides a richer analytics experience for course grades, your weekly online activity and individual student view, as you can actually see on the screenshot as well, that it's got a nice little concise page that will give you a lot of the analytics depending on what you're actually after. All the analytics also do include the mobile page views as well. And you can either do it in a chart or in a table as well. So you've got the ability to really, depending on how you essentially like to look at data, you're able to do that as well. It's enabled at the root account, and and you can turn it on course by course as well. I'll just get you to go to the next slide, please, Paul. Yep, so all the reports are actually downloadable via CSV as well, which I think is a really cool aspect of it. You can see things like missing class roster, course activity, and it really just gives you a better insight into what activity and performance within your actual Canvas course. There is a really new cool feature that is available, which is the online attendance. So essentially, with the online attendance, you can set different criteria. I don't know if you can see that quite clearly, but there are different criteria that a student has to meet that you've actually selected in order for them to be marked as attending for that course. So some of them are like course access, posting onto a discussion, submitting an assignment, viewing a page, or submitting a quiz. If they've done one of the following, then they'll actually be marked as attended. Next slide. Just some things to know before enabling it. So the data can take up to 24 hours to appear after it has been turned on. Yeah, of course, super large courses may experience loading issues just due to the amount of data that has to be read, essentially. It displays active students as well, so any concluded students won't actually be shown. And it is also available in the mobile data, like I mentioned, is also available in New Analytics. Again, some of the links that you'll be able to access. So the user group FAQ and the feature option, the feature overview as well.
All right, the Rich Content Editor Icon Maker. For those of you who came to our last K-12 user group, we actually discussed this really briefly. But essentially, we now have an icon maker that you can enable so that it appears in the Rich Content Editor in Canvas. So anywhere where you're using that, whether it be on a page or a discussion or an assignment or wherever it is where you're using the Rich Content Editor, you can create your own custom icons. Now, there are, well, it didn't come out too long ago. So at the moment, we have a predefined set of icons that you can use. But you can customize the colors and look of that and the labeling of those icons. But there are updates coming to the icon maker that will give you even more functionality than there is now. And this is what it looks like. So you have a little screen where you can set all the options of the icon, select the icon, the colors, what the label says, and where the label is located, whether it's underneath or on the icon or wherever you want it. Again, just let teachers know if you're turning it on. First of all, they'll probably be a little bit excited. It's probably not going to be much of a shock. They'll just see it there and go, oh, this is great. This is a new tool. But great to let them know that it is available to them once you do turn it on. And here are the links to the details to help you get up and running with that. All right, one of my favorites, Adora gets this one. I'm jealous.
Yeah, me too. I love this one. Emojis. So just if you could just switch to the next slide, please, Paul. So essentially, it allows your teachers and your students to use emojis when in the submission comments. You can convey messages essentially through emojis, as well as, obviously you write your comment and then you can do a little smiley face or a little celebration hat to, really add to what you're trying to convey in that comment. You can unlock it at the root account. So once you unlock it at the root account, you will notice in the actual, if you go back into the settings, there will be an option to block certain emojis. Like we at Instructure have removed emojis that we have deemed to be inappropriate, but there may be some emojis that your institution just does not want them to have access to. So you can actually have them on the blocked emojis, and it won't be available for your staff or your students to use in the actual comments. Next.
Oh, this is the next one.
Oh, okay. So pretty much talks about how the blocking of it is, and it will give you a little visualization into what you can do and how it'll actually appear. So once you click that little smiley face, all the emojis will be available that are available to use, and it will just be used within the actual comment itself.
This is cool because, I mean, you've always been able to, on Mac and PC, you've been able to do comments as part of the keyboard built into the operating system, but it just makes it really convenient because it's right there in the comments section.
And you can block them if you don't want to use certain emojis. I think that's really good.
Yeah.
So yep, some of the additional resources and links that you can actually see as well.
Cool. Now, I noticed that we've been getting a couple of questions in the Q&A about outcomes. I'll circle back to those. We'll just finish up the last couple of feature options, and we'll come to some of those questions that we'll answer live as well. So be rest assured, we haven't forgotten about you, but we will circle back and make sure we get to those. But embedded release notes. So this is really, really handy because it's a way for you to be able to see what's actually been released in Canvas without ever having to leave Canvas. Now, if this is enabled, you see the release notes that are applicable to any of the roles that you have in Canvas. So it will only show you stuff that's applicable to those particular roles. So if you're just an admin in Canvas, then you'll see stuff that's related to admins. In this one that you can see on the screen there, you can see that this person is an instructor and an admin. So they're a teacher and an admin in Canvas, so they can access those release notes right there from the help menu inside of Canvas. You can basically disable whether you want that badge. See where the little one is on the screen to show whether the release notes, new release notes are available or not. But the help menu will always display the last 10 release notes posted for that particular role, which means it can get a little bit cluttered in that help menu if you don't turn it off. And here is some more information that we have on that. You get all the good ones, Adora.
I do. I get all the fun ones. So Confetti for valid links and on-time submission. So this is such a great feature and really adds to that fun element when it comes to teaching and learning. I mean, who doesn't love, a little bit of celebration when they submit an assignment on time or when they put in the correct links within the course. So essentially within Canvas, you've got the course link validator that you have access to. And this validator checks all the links within your Canvas course and will essentially let you know if there are any issues that were found. If no issues are found, a little confetti will spray up on the actual page itself, as you can see, to let you know that there were no broken links found. And the same goes for the actual on-time submissions as well. So when a student submits an assignment on time, they'll also get that confetti that appears on their page. And we've had some great feedback from students about this feature as well. Even so, like, people have tweeted it on social media and posted it on social media about how exciting this is for them. I know it might seem something small, but I guess, when you've been working away and working really hard, it's nice to see that imagery that comes across the screen.
Just so satisfying.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's like little yay me.
It's a celebration. You've done all this work.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost like a congratulations.
Exactly. And you think you got 100%. So you're like, woo, yeah. So it's awesome. Why would you enable it? It's pretty obvious. It gives you a visual cue for the students that they've finished their work. One thing to note though, if you do have it turned on for your courses, your students do have the ability to turn it off in their settings if they just don't want to see that appear every single time, because they know they're good.
So, I'm not aware of any student that's ever turned it off.
Who's turned it off. Yeah, it's cute. And again, the next couple of slides will show you the links to the information if you want to have a further read up on it.
All right, default due time. This is a lucky last before we circle back into some of those questions. This is a really handy feature that a lot of institutions have requested from us. And essentially it allows you to set a default due time for your assignments whenever a new assignment is created in your Canvas instance. So traditionally, you may be used to the fact that the account default is 11:59 p.m. You know, some people don't like the fact that that's you know, that it is right before midnight, and so it encourages maybe students to stay up till midnight to submit assignments, which would, you know, we all know students do that, particularly at university. You can set a default time. So if you want to have it set, I know my son's school, they like to have a due time for their assignments of 8:30 a.m., which is right when school starts in the morning. So my son doesn't like it, but the school likes that time. And so they can set that as a default. Now you can override that, obviously, for individual assignments if you need a different due time. But that just sets a new default across the account, which makes it nice and easy to do that. Assignments that already have a due date won't actually change. It'll only be for new assignments that are created. So, you know, that last sentence there, if people don't want any due dates or times or anything appearing on their assignments when they're copying across from one course to another, then make sure that they select the option to remove due dates prior to importing that content over to the new course. And here is the information on default due time. And there are all the feature options we wanted to cover off today. Now, there's a question about, you should click on outcome label and see where it was aligned to a rubric or task. Where is it now? Okay, so there is actually some very heavy product development on outcomes at the moment on seeing where outcomes are aligned to all the artifacts that they're aligned to. Now, the reason why I say that is because very shortly you'll be able to align outcomes not just to rubrics, but also to other objects inside of Canvas, like assignments and pages and other content that you have in Canvas. Think of it like curriculum mapping inside of Canvas, and you'll be able to see where all of those things are aligned inside of your courses. So there is some more development happening on that front at the moment. Thanks for that question, Ben. Observer analytics with the new feature. Oh no, so Jeremy, it's for student analytics. The new analytics that we went through earlier, that's for students only, because observers can't participate in discussions, they can't submit assignments or anything like that. So it's not attached to observers for that reason. It's more of a tool for teachers to see where their students are at. Okay, I think that's all the questions. If there are no other questions, thanks so much everyone for coming today. We appreciate you coming along, and hopefully we'll be able to see you at the next webinar, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.